and welcome to Kami Space webinar. Yeah, the fifth review project with Kawa Architect. Before we begin, I would like to say hi to the people that involved in tonight's webinar. Good evening to our panelists, Mr. Qhawarizmi Nosriman, and good evening to Mrs. Rosilawati from HDI Sumatera Utara, and good evening, Mr. Robert Mansirait from LPJK Sumatera Utara. And good evening also to Mr. Tony, yeah, as CEO of Kami Space and director in LP Kamen. Tonight, we are delighted to be back for the fifth time. The webinar particularly aimed to share knowledge and information about architecture with young architect through his or her research or practice. Tonight's model for the discussions will be a little bit different with philosophy webinar. As tonight, we will have more chill discussions. There are no boundaries about the questions as long as it is appropriate. Attendants could ask anything from practice as an architect, the tips or tricks to start an architect firm, for example, to the idea or concepts that will be explained by Mr. Kawa. So I'll share a little bit of his work. Yeah, I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay, as I think everyone could see my screen right now. Yeah, okay. So his portfolio is in the website, yeah, mdrxa.wordpress.com. I suggest that the attendant should check the portfolio, yeah, check the website for this MDRXA. There is a news here and architecture here. When you see the first page of the website, it just gonna give me the vibe of Jarke Ingles, Jarke Ingles feeling of the website like that. Except that Mr. Kawa actually using, using visual. If BIG using symbol, Mr. Kawa using a visual here. It's very great. So another portfolio of Mr. Kawa is the urban design. Yeah, he actually do a lot of urban designing. And what interesting for me is that he do a lot of research. As we know that as an architect, we rarely do a lot of research. I know some of my friends architect too, they do a lot of research too, and eventually they publish a book. Here, Mr. Kawa also published his book, several books of his. Yes, about that. Without further delay, I will say hi to Mr. Kawa. Hi, Kawa.
Hi, Freddy. Hello.
Yes, how are you?
Good to be here.
Yes, your background is so black, but where are you right now?
It's my home office. So basically, I
Yeah.
have a home office that is better equipped than the actual office, to be honest.
Whoa, okay. Could you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Right. So I'm part-time. I do a lot of part-time work. So I would consider my practice actually not as a profession, but rather as a hobby. So I would consider that doing architecture is a hobby. So it's sort of like a part-time. At the same time, I teach in multiple private schools. I've been teaching for 7 years already.
Okay.
And I think I have some students coming from Medan, if not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I run 3 practice with 3 different scope of work or interests per se, and also a father of 1. That's it. And the second one is coming like in 20 days.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So that's more or less who I am.
Wow, congratulations, Mr. Kawa,
Thank
for
you.
your son. Okay. Shall we go down to your presentation?
Sure.
Okay.
Shall I share my screen?
Yes. Thank you.
So I was begin. So the talk today, I want to talk about some of our competition entry, and some of our entry has won national level competition. So hence it's called paid for success, not for the attempt. I think that's a very relatable term, because a lot of us, a lot of us are doing free proposals sometimes for developers or potential clients. Eventually, uh, it's not chosen or selected. Sometimes it could be slightly frustrating. So I guess our business model is fairly risky because in Qhawarizmi Arsitek, unlike the other two of my practice, we focus solely on competition. With that being said, if there is a slowdown in competition engagement or right now you don't see much competition happening, so it's a bit difficult. So that's the yeah. So that is the background. So hopefully we will show 3 projects, 2 small ones and 1 big one. So the first project is actually something that we won honorable mention. The third one, the second one we won third, and the first one we won first prize. The last one we won first prize. So this is a little bit about me. Sorry, the graphic is a bit gore. I like to play video games. I think my perception of space been formed by this video game, Doom. They use this parallel technology. Actually, it's not a 3D. It's actually a parallel drawing in perspective. So this is like the pinnacle of 3D game back then, and now we saw this graphic a bit more visual, a bit more 3D, the colors and whatnot. And if you look at it carefully, slowly, a lot of my game look like my work, and my work, of course, will look like games. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I think Mr. Freddy has introduced MDRXA. So it is a research think tank. Okay, it's in the far end of the left. So you can see that eventually some of the learnings will be transferred to Qhawarizmi Arsitek, which will be focusing on design competitions. And I would perceive this practice is just as a tool for me to discover architecture, not really thinking about making money or stuff like that. It's very secondary. And the last but not least is Practical Architects Sdn Bhd. It's a practice that actually undertook work doing submissions, doing tender drawing, contract drawing, and all those legalities related to architecture. So if you want to think about an object to represent this practice, it's sort of like a shovel. It's just meant to open up ways or perspective of seeing things. It's a broad stroke, more abstract. Meanwhile, Qhawarizmi Arsitek is slightly more refined. You give direction to the project form, and the last but not least, the precision of Practica focus a bit more detailed and accurate, because obviously it in the realm of contractual and legalities. So you don't want to get sued or go to jail. So in short, they serve different prongs. So from left to right, they inform each other. So some projects from competition go to commission, and some research go to competition. It go back and forth. The reason why I enter competition is that, for example, in Olympic, right, even though you are very, your country can't compete with GDP, with advancement of technology, but your country can compete in running, and you can be the best in running. So that's why I enter competition, because I want to fight with the big boys in Malaysia, of course. So my first project is this. That I want to share is a competition of urban public space under highway. And this is how it looks. It's just like a flyover. I think there's a lot in Indonesia as well. So basically the space looks derelict, it's dead. There's few homeless living around. There's nothing much going on. It's just fronting a terminal, which is hosting a bus, ferry, trains, and if not mistaken, what do you call it, in the future, skycab or cable car service. So it's fronting those buildings. So if you look at the site is fairly segmented because there's few roads cutting through the site, and the site is fairly inaccessible normally unless you walk underneath the highway, and it's divided into 3, but no normal people would just walk there because there's absolute nothing there. So the circumstances is as such. It's noisy, and the top highway is constantly vibrating, And you can see that it's quite a challenge to get this become a public space. But put that on hold. We move on to this. For 100 years, we have been using natural ivory, okay? Like, yeah, so it's like elephant tusks or rhino tusks to make combs and other stuff that we usually use. So the invention of synthetic polymer is very new, 100 years ago. And if you learn or have heard about the story of King Midas, you will know that King Midas is a king that loved gold so much. One day he got the power to change everything that he touched, turn into gold. He becomes sad because everything that he touched turned into gold, including food, so he can't eat. Eventually, his daughter come and console him. They hug, and eventually the daughter become a gold. So I would say eventually you will. I will reveal why this is important. Basically, King Midas loved gold so much to the point where his children become gold. And this is also happening with us. We love polymer. Polymer or synthetic polymer is called plastic in a normal term. Plastic is everywhere. Things that usually be made from steel or wood now has been made from plastic. That's not limited to all this utensil, but also high-tech equipment, such as our smartphone, our car. You know that the door, the steering, some of the component is plastic, our money and house. And the unfortunate things about this plastic is that 90% of them is actually a single-use plastic. I think this is not news. Everyone kind of know this is sort of a problem. And you can see that we rarely think about where they actually go after we are done with them. Obviously, we're going to throw them away. So that's must be, you know, the sad part of the story, where eventually the plastic will go is to the water or marine life. And you can see that the plastic will never, not really disintegrate. It will go somewhere. It will go and haunt this aqua life and eventually making their life difficult and pollute our river and ocean, right? So all these circumstances really prone to countries like Malaysia, for example, because we have a lot of shoreline. You can see that Peninsular Malaysia is fairly a thin line of landmass. So our country is like 360 circled with ocean. So you can see that the amount of wastage, plastic wastage that we exude to the ocean. And for the, unfortunately, since China has stopped importing plastic, Malaysia has taken up that role. You can see that the amount of plastic waste coming from this first world country flooding into Malaysia, and it got to a point one day that they returned the plastic. This is inaccurate. Actually, we have 400 or 500 illegal plants that actually process recyclable plastic. But actually, when you go and put your plastic into recyclable, they are not actually recycled, but rather they've been sent to this plant, okay? And then this plant are in charge to dispose it however they please. And the cheapest way of disposing them is two ways. First, stockpiling, which is the top photo. They don't do much. They lease a land, they stockpile everything, and then they run away. Second, they burn them. So there's only two strategy of recycling. You can see that this plastic waste coming from Australia and other countries. I think there's a documentary by Australian journalists coming here, looking at some of the plastic with Australian labelings and whatnot. So it's fairly normal. There's no actual recycling process because, to be honest, it's a hard job. It's not economically, I'm not saying it's not economically viable, but it's easier just to dump them on the land. So basically, you can see that domestically, Malaysia produced 1 million ton of domestic plastic, and we import more than 100% from abroad. So you can see the range of first world country that actually dump their garbage here. and 30% of those garbage will go or eventually end up in sea. And then we have this subset of scenarios. But this is not the worst story. The worst story is actually there, the area where you can't even see where the plastic is, in a form of microplastic. And this microplastic is actually disintegrate from the plastic waste that you see floating around. And currently there's 51 trillion pieces of this microplastic. Since it's in such a microscopic size, it is prone to be eaten by the zooplankton. You can see that zooplankton will not know the difference. And basically, you know what zooplankton been eaten by. Of course, our aqua life, including fish that we consume. But not only fish, we can see traces of microplastic in honey or plastic additive, at least in sea salt, bottled water, tap water. And this is not news. I mean, ocean pollution has been going on for years. So just imagine in this day and age, how many plastic things that we have, to the point where almost 80% of our children actually has a trace of plastic additive. This brings back to the story of King Midas. We love plastic so much to the point where we would build everything from plastic. We try to, in the spirit of mass manufacturing, we try to make things cheaper. We try to make things more durable. We think plastic is a good option. It's a good material. Yes, of course, it has its good properties. To the point where our children has become plastic itself. So it's more or less a lesson that we need to learn from King Midas. The fact that if we love plastic so much, even our children or babies have turned into plastic. And the story doesn't end there. It gets worse because almost all adults has plastic additives. So worry not. It's already too late. I mean, it's already in your body. That's why the rise of this series of crucial or chronic disease is prevalent, like cancer or not, because you have all this substance in your body running around. So it's in our food and why not. So what should we do with this? So I'm not thinking about only this particular space, but I'm talking about the area as a whole. The area is actually filled up with industrial area. So this is Seberang Perai. Seberang Perai is a town of the north of Malaysia. So I think there's a need for the people to speak out. What kind of program that do they like? What kind of program do they want for the space under the highway? So what we're trying to do is we try to somehow design a simple, it's not really urban design, I would say. We just try to somehow design something very simple that they can be part of. And some of the parameter is that it has to be material coming from the site. With that being said, because it's an industrial area, this is the range of material that we think will be available. First, because we want to ensure that the material has a second chance of life. The material can be reused. The material will not go away or not go to the sea. As you can see, Seberang Perai are also very near to the shoreline. And this is the subset of the range of cars that we have, outlined that can somehow help us to manifest the space that we want. The second parameter is that we want them to construct this themselves. So we made this simple modular frames that they can somehow fabricate themselves in a way and erect the installation themselves. So basically, if you look at it, it is a fairly simple frame with several notches with a very stable dimension. So it's square practically. And you can see that the frame is actually made of marble plastic waste. So if you melt plastic and try to, foam or mold them, it will look like this. And we can connect them from all four sides to create this cube. And this cube will eventually become a modular that you can go up, left, right, and eventually after you have done this, you can dismantle or repeat. And basically, it's fairly simple, very light construction, and it's not going to be permanent. And the whole pavilion can be melted again if you have another, another design or another frame to construct. So basically, as a whole, the community, as even teenagers, small children can participate, and it has this wood property, so you can just drill them. So it has this tensile and compression strength of a soft wood, so you can build up the whole pavilion just using, I think, not mistaken, two molds. Another one is just the angle to create the roof. So this is like a fairly modularized pavilion that will be imposed with programs inside the houses, what we call houses or rumah per se. And basically, we did try to simulate what if we introduce 12 houses. So in the real life, it could be any or more than 12, but we try to say that you could maybe start with this 12 houses. It's a collective that serve different function, that serve different walk of life, and try to, somehow offer something for everyone. So it's become slightly more inclusive. So the pavilion is arrayed as such. You can see that there are a few clusters. So there's a top one, there's one cluster, and then the bottom two, side B and C, is another cluster. And we did a greenhouse on the other side of the road and a clock tower on the other side of the road. For the of course, we need some advertising revenue as well, and of course, for the people that is commuting or using the road. So you can see that it's a fairly busy road. So it's fairly hard to imagine how people would navigate the whole proposal underneath this elevated highway. So maybe if you look carefully, they are more or less the same, but they have distinct characteristic and function. For example, the first one is the main house or the rumah ibu or headquarters per se. They are for the local authority to show what they are working on, what are the latest development. They're collecting comments, okay, they're collecting suggestion. And the second one is meant for for you to have an external viewing platform. I think is fairly a bit more enclosed than the first one. This is where you can have and spend your time, your evening reading or poetry writing or poetry presentation. And this is where the buskers can go and have a short show. And then Rumah Tani or the greenhouse is where the local school nearby actually adopt this to become their pet project. So they take care of this series of plantations. Rumah Tinjau, also an observation deck, and as I mentioned, clock tower / advertising board. So there's a huge elevated highway that we can generate some revenue to fund this project. Rumah Kita is where it all started. This is where you get the recycling and molding of your particular frame. So this house can multiply other houses, make other houses bigger, longer, and more houses after that. And this is where for the cyclists, you can rent bicycle, you can pump your tires because there's commuters going to the transportation hub. This is where you can take shelter as motorists. Usually motorists take shelter underneath the elevated highway during rain. So we have some motorcycle parkings and then place to sit and some locker to store their helmets. So during raining time, they can put their stuff there and then start walking around to the other houses. This is where it's a mobile house for food truck or maybe welfare or mobile police station. So it's fairly flexible. It's sort of like a skin that try to become like a pop-up kiosk, stuff like that, to offer some retail experience. House of Laughter of Rumah Tower is where you have fun. There's a lot of outdoor games. There's an organ, table tennis, dart, and small skate ramp. So it's for the youth to enjoy. And last but not least is the art house, Rumah Seni, where the photography, calligraphy, painting are celebrated. And this is all the benefit, hopefully. New democratic space, improved service delivery, pride and sense of belonging. And of course, the first photo is where you can go to the island, Penang Island, using a ferry. So, but at the end of the day, if you look at it carefully, this is not, the actual or the real positive or benefit of this. Of course, what we want to tackle is actually the issue of plastic. And if you look at the amount of plastic that we actually consume in this particular project, we are able to somehow contribute in solving those problems. Just be reminded that this project is meant to be just a small urban intervention underneath a highway. But of course, in terms of in the outlook of the whole domestic plastic waste, instead of 30% goes into the sea, what we can do is that in this particular project alone, we will consume 4% of the total plastic waste, domestic plastic waste. So just imagine if the project is slightly larger, slightly, you have a bit more serious endorsement, money behind it, it could be a lot larger. So in this particular project, it will require 40,000 tons of plastic. So 12 houses is more than physical house. Is actually a new lease of life. Like, honestly, almost 99% of this is made of recyclable plastic, the frame that I shown you, and it's a redemption of Bo. Bo is the name of the highway, and of course, mankind. That is project number 1, and we won honorable mention, unfortunately, even though I give a fiery speech during the presentation. Project number 2 is, you are living in the condominium or apartment. You can see that actually your window is actually like a telescope in a submarine, because, you will look at your window and then you will close them with curtain and you will sit inside. So actually all of us living in submarine. So your window is actually a pleasure machine. It's the only place where you get some pleasure out of your house. You can look outside, have a nice view from top. And after you look at outside for 10 seconds and you're going to spend 10 hours inside, but unlike that, your room most likely look like that. It's just a mess. This is because product design is not designed with the house, meaning that the clothes are designed by someone else and the house is designed by someone else. So if you look at the relativity of architecture as a slow and static art, in the attempt to contain industrial design, your phone, your table, your clothes, it's weird because this phone updates every year and your house stays static. So there's some problem with the interior, definitely, how we think about house. If you look at the house that we have, for example, I give you an example, a typical Malaysian apartment. You bought it 100%, and if you minus the wall, the shaft, the piping area, whatever, the door, you can actually enjoy 87, okay? But if you minus the door swing, furnitures and whatnot, actually you can only enjoy 66. But you have to pay not 100% of the house, but 185%. I don't know. I'm not so sure how it works in Indonesia, but in Malaysia, that's how your mortgage works. Usually, it almost doubles the house. So you are, buying more than what you actually get. So this is some of our research that we did. We view, I think, 24 typical apartment plans, and you can see that the efficiency can range. The larger the unit is a bit more efficient, but the smaller the unit is, the worse it gets. So you can see that, for example, this particular unit is horrible. 60%, or some of them is below that. So you can see how actually your house, the problem with your house is really starting from the inside. So if you look at the typical internal wall, it looks like that. And when you put a furniture, it will look like that. It will triple in depth. What we're trying to propose is try to improve the wall performance with thinner material, but high performance material, and use the furniture as an insulation. In a way, your wall will work like a smartphone. If you don't like the wall/furniture, you can update the component, you can swap the kitchen, you can swap your wardrobe, you can swap your study, blah, 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 blah. So that's what we thought. So the challenge is to find what Housing 4.0 is. So for us, Housing 4.0, it goes up and down. So meaning that it's been designed from the simplest thing, for example, utensil, up to the township. If you just imagine everything that you design in this particular place follows certain dimensionality, meaning that if you have a pen, the pen will be as the exact dimension in your drawer, and your drawer will have an exact dimension in your table, and your table is the exact dimension in your house. So we try to propagate the idea of this super curated living space, and of course we have established some dimensionality to start, and the dimension must offer at least some range of flexibility. Obviously we have a lot of site condition, and of course land plots are fairly irregular. So obviously we try, and I think we just made a sample of how it will look. For example, like this, it is a good public space retail at the bottom ground, and it doesn't go that much higher. It just goes 7-8 stories, and basically it's modulated, and you get this private garden with shaded from the sun, because they are self-shading geometry. Somehow you can see the shadow is casted on the wall itself, and ensuring the balcony to be cool 24 hours. So basically we try to see how can we imbue walls slash furniture together. So we have this some framework for the furniture maker to modulate. So basically we are selling the patterns for them to actually use and then be part of the house. So basically this modulation, this framework is actually designed to fit the house exactly, and there is an infinite possibility what you can do. And basically it's a simple drag and drop. So you have this house is a bit irregular, because we want to ensure lighting and ventilation requirement as per Malaysian building law is comply. That's why it looks like that. And a full unit could look like this. So you can have your bedroom change if you want. If you a golden age and your son left the house and you want to a bigger bedroom for yourself, it's possible. Or you can swap some of the module to your son's house if they are starting a new family. They don't have much money, because if you buy from this particular township, you can swap. So if you're a first home buyer, you will log in into this credential, and basically they will ask you to choose your unit. So they want to confirm which unit do you want, which unit you bought. And if you don't have the time, you can just choose from the template. And basically after that, you can go through the template, okay? And then there will be a range of modules to choose. So you can see now it's trying to fill up sector S, and now they are thinking about, should I put an ironing board there, or it should be just like a open bookshelf or close or with door bookshelf. It's up to them. So they can just click one sector at a time and try to configure their house themselves. Of course, it could be anything. It could be a bachelor pad. It could be an Airbnb host. It can be an artist heaven, a bit more open plan for students, for startup, for 2-generation family. It has this versatility, and at all time it will comply with the Malaysian building law. So that's the biggest challenge, to be honest, because trying to do a flexible layout is easy, but to make sure that it is buildable and configurable about while compiling to the law. Of course, the toilet can't be changed due to the fact that we have this piping and whatnot. So there is some limitation to the mall. But of course, this is the simplest unit. We actually have 22 unit types. So this zigzag shape or lightning shape is actually the simplest. The more elaborate unit type have 3 balcony. You can do a lot more. You can swap one balcony to be a whole jacuzzi, one balcony to be a barbecue pit, and we won third against the biggest, baddest practice in Malaysia. To be honest, we are very small. We are less than 5 people, and we are competing with practice that have 300, 400 people. All right, so the last one is Penang again. This is the Penang Island. So it's different. And this is where the site is. It's Jalan Perak or Perak Road. And Perak Road is actually one of the main road that leads to the south and north. It's sort of like Bandung in a way, where the roads are going up and down, north and south. So this road, even though it's not a highway, it's just a 2-lane road. It is fairly busy. And the project actually asked us to relocate the existing pasar or Pasar Jalan Perak or the Perak Road Market into this site. So they give us two sites, site A and site B, and you can see now it is filled with small houses, which occupying government land, to be honest. So now they were thinking, how can we rejuvenate this particular area in a way? So you can see that this is fairly filled up with clinics and fire station and whatnot. But if you look at the trend of people shopping nowadays, mostly due to the COVID, it has accelerated to online. I'm not so sure about how Indonesia is, but I presume it's more or less the same. But that's not limited to goods. It also affect food supply, and of course, due to COVID, people not keen to buy themselves. They also supply fresh food. So this, but all this amenities is fairly limited. I mean, they don't anticipate that COVID will change the market so much. So they don't have enough delivery trucks and whatnot. So people still go to wet market. Unfortunately, people still have to. In a way, they also prefer to choose their own eggs, chicken, vegetable. But the problem with market is that there's a lot of operational problems due to the lack of amenities, and basically you can see that a lot of old market infrastructure has tempered efficiency. So you can see a lot of self-built structure, and people nowadays prefer to get a ready meal rather than make their meal themselves. So there's also markets such as this has been left. And some other problem in the market is that you have to go through something like fruit to get to veggie, or through meat to get to fruits, or something like that. It creates this inefficiency because market usually been designed this open plan filled up with booth with little directional cues, and people sometimes pass through a place more than once. And it increase the time you spend in the market. Of course, in a way, you might say it's good for commerce, but it's not good for COVID, where you pass around and then you congested the market. And market also have a deep horizontal floor plate, and it's usually dark. And market in Malaysia usually have a food court on the first floor. So when you go down to the market, actually you have this limited ceiling height, even though it's quite high, like 5 or 6 meters. But you have this unpleasant underslab because the thing that you see is only this white beam and floor slabs. So it's not actually good. And the placement has increased cross-contamination. So in Jalan Perak itself, they have this non-halal section to be part of the main market. So it could have that negative connotation that people might doubt the cleanliness due to the dietary restriction of Muslims. So you can see that when market is done, you will have to go through some parts of the store that has already done their business, and that might litter the place that they just clean up. So there's a lot of problem with this market, and they also have a lot of second layer stalls that increase the potential of unwanted association, favoring someone that have a exposure on the first lane. This is some of the market that we research. The composition, we actually research about 12 markets, and then eventually we see the patterns from this sample. So you can see that actually a lot of markets that is in the suburbs has other goods such as books, clothes, and other retail goods. Meanwhile, other markets in the city center will have bigger food courts because of the working population usually will enjoy having their lunch there. So there's this difference. So, but in the Jalan Perak market brief, there is a need for both. So we try to accommodate. But in order to understand how a market works, in the simplest term, you can see that how logistics has evolved. Now it starts from your phone and eventually went to data center and fulfillment center in a warehouse and been delivered by parcel service. It's actually a conundrum with an airport. You can see that on the other side of the airport is a concentration of people and baggage going to the airport. And then on the other side is dispersion of people and baggage, but you still have to match people and baggage together. So some people ensure that they want their baggage. So same goes to market. When they come to market has a selection of things. So you can see that the person on the left wanted this item, and it's actually a model of concentration by the vendors and dispersion by the buyers. A bit history of market in Penang. So this is some of the roads. People actually traded on the roads back then. So there's a lot of Jalan Pasar, Market Road, Market Square. It's normal. Almost in every city there is a road named as such, because it's very simple back then. People just bring their wares and trade on the road. But eventually that brings, because market bring crowd. So crowd also bring other stuff, including riots, politics and stuff, but civic movement and whatnot. But that's not only limited to, not saying it's all bad. Okay, we have a lot of religious ceremony passing through Market Road is fairly normal, because that's where people actually is, the crowd is. So it's fairly celebratory. So it's all about having a good time. Eventually, they built this simple shed market so people can enjoy their trading inside a building, a simple shed. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of vendors actually spill over outside the shed. But the road now has had different function. Previously, it just meant for people to connect from one part of the city to the other, as the introduction of vehicles, motorized vehicles or motorcar or car, you could say that. So there's a need to move away from a market. So you can't open a market on the road because it's meant for something else now. So it's all about private mobility, okay, cars and whatnot. So they have to build a more permanent structure. So this is Chaurasta Market, one of the historic market in Penang, and this is Campbell Market, where actually the traders has gone into the shop lots, because again the market can't cope with the activities because of the limitation of space and vendor count. Eventually, Chaurasta Market has evolved to this, like a multi-storied building. So the images I've shown just now has been renovated or destroyed for this multi-story market. So this is the evolution of market in Penang per se, and there's still no way of stopping people trading outside the market or spill over. So the evolution of market is fairly there, and eventually the latest iteration of Chaurasta Market includes 5-story car parking. So it become more and more like a sort of a shopping mall per se, and there's a event hall on the third floor, and what do you call it, 5-story car park podium at the back. So market is no longer a simple shed or whatnot. It's already become an integrated complex per se, which a lot of amenities. So if you go back and see what market is, Penang Market is never a building. Actually, Penang Market is an assemblage of building, a series of building forming the market. So in a way, we can say that Penang Market shed archetype is actually a neighborhood, in lack of a better term. So you can see that there's a lot of other produce has been sold somewhere nearby the market. So this is a typical market district in Penang, and we want to bring that in our proposal. So we have to bring the flavor of urbanism. So this is some of the images that we want them to have this distinct character in an individual and different building with different color, to make an easy recognition. And of course, in the middle, there will be a place where people can belong, people can speak, socialize, and basically enjoy the time, because there's a character of this particular neighborhood market where people actually go to the market to actually meet their friends, not really buying anything per se, or they buy food and whatnot. And it should be a destination where it could be a turning point for this particular neighborhood to become a bit more known than its famous Georgetown. Georgetown is the historical part of Penang. Georgetown is have a very strong UNESCO World Heritage Site, and we try to bring some identity. So the market, once you look at it in a glance, you will know what this is, what project is this, where this is. And of course, it has to be universal, meaning that it's not, you shouldn't be so ethnically looking. It should be fairly efficient, fairly well, lack of better term, meant for globalized citizen. And of course, delicious, where Penang is known for its food street. I'm not so sure how Singapore get the first ranking for food street. I mean, Penang is way better. And green, of course, is don't have to be emphasized. Of course, cycling, promote pedestrian and whatnot. So this is some of the things that we want to bring forward during the time of the competition. So we did. And of course, it has to offer some range of efficiency. So we are actually comparing this particular building with an airport. So it's no longer operating like a normal market, but it will be conducted in such a way that it become a logistical behemoth. It has to be a logistic oriented building. It's no longer the romanticism of market and whatnot, because let's truth be told, market is actually a logistic building. So the market is been raised up. So we designed the market in a one whole plate, okay, and we raise up because this particular neighborhood do experience flood. So we want to ensure this is the only flood-proof market. I mean, not the only. I mean, we try to create a new model of market for Penang. So first of all, we said it has to be flood-proof because all other Penang market is actually on the ground floor. And the idea was, if you have a dirty market floor, how can you trade the day after? Because the day after the flood, usually, a lot of household has have the need to replenish their supplies and whatnot. So it's fairly important to ensure that the market is independent from the ground and allow the water to pass through underneath. And of course, we have several ways that you can go in a series of roads or boulevards that we design, and basically you can navigate around this town, this small town, this market district, and basically you can enjoy yourself because you have the options. If you don't want the seafood, you don't have to go through seafood. If you're a vegan, for example, you don't have to go through the meat section. If you're a Muslim, you can skip past the non-halal section. So it gives that sense of democratization of selection of what you can and what you can enjoy and what you can skip. So the idea is to give you more power and give the shopping experience that you never had before in other market, because in other market it's sort of like a ghost house where you have haunted house, because you have to go through like one linear route, either you like it or not. That's the way that you go in, that's the way you go out. Unlike this market, we try to offer something new, something that even the online experience can't provide. We have in the middle there we have a courtyard, and then flanking it in the orange is actually a community hall. So our focus is these three: operational, culture, and social enrichment, and of course, resiliency. It could be part of the attempt for people to be safe during flood. So this is sort of a safe point because we have the fire and rescue station just nearby. So actually the market also have this helipad is DCA. DCA is the governing body of flying aircraft in Malaysia. So DCA approved airpad, so you can have rescue mission and whatnot. It could be a base where if there is a flood disaster, you can mitigate the rescue effort from this particular town, small district. So this is how the market looks like. There's a huge ramp in the middle, a huge ramp trying to go up, and then you'll be fronted with the courtyard, and then from the courtyard you can navigate yourself through the clock tower. You can see where you are. The clock tower is there for navigational purposes. Of course, the clock tower also double as an art gallery, actually meaning as a very thriving art culture. If you know, like there's mural art, street art, music, and whatnot. So we try to bring some of that. And of course, we have a ring road, elevated ring road on the second floor where the market is. So if you have to drop off somebody, you can do that, or you go with e-hailing services like Grab or Uber, you can drop off on top. Some of the features, it is a designed as an urban fabric. It has second layer street, has this array of public sphere space. You can enter the market in multiple various ways. And of course, we have this prominent clock tower to give some sense of identity of this particular market. We have orchard all around, and basically all logistical area are concealed, just like your shopping malls. In a way, it have some learnings from that. You have separate access for logistic, and then you have direct delivery, meaning that lorry will never cross path with customer's car or visitor's car. And basically, there's a lot of alternatives usage. In the front, it's actually a multi-use pavilion, which it could be for tourist bus to park as they bring this series of tourists as part of the attraction. Because the problem with market is that it's only meant for the early morning or early afternoon, and then after that it's fairly useless, or underutilized. Sorry. So we try to bring in some or tourism activities so it could prolong the use of the market. The problem is that you have this huge square footage, and then you did nothing during the evening. And of course, in the middle, what we're trying to do, we're trying to have a space for event, for example, concert, or even festivities or annual dinner, stuff like that. And of course, there is a component where it could be used to navigate disaster. So it could be a place where you deploy boats to rescue people that actually, people that is stuck in their house to be housed or temporarily housed in the community hall as part of the disaster mitigation efforts. And it's on the market is on a single floor. Of course, it makes your shopping experience easier. And the individual market share is designed specifically for the produce that they are hosting. So, for example, your seafood will require slightly less lower temperature. So the market will have thicker insulation to insulate from the hot sun and such and stuff like that, ensuring the best optimum qualities that the produce need. For example, for vegetable, you need more ventilation than the meat, for example. So the veggie shed will have larger openings, more frequent interchangeable of air. So the fact that they're able to be customized, unlike normal market, which we have one huge roof for everything, it causes all this undesirable effect. The floor is always wet, sorry. And then the smell is not good because the ventilation is not enough. The floor is always wet because of the seepage and drainage is not enough. So we try to custom made and tailor made each particular area or shed per se, and then there's few parts of it on top as a urban farm as a means of education, and the plaza also can be deployed as temporary shelter if there is an emergency, if the army or national defense deploy tents to rescue people from the flood or other disaster. So this whole market, you can see that obviously the market is not just a place where you can sell or buy. It's more than that. It's so much more than that, and we want them to celebrate this as part of their neighbor per se. So they come here, and then this is where they meet. Because to be honest, if you look at the images I shown you just now, you wouldn't see any open space. So this is the last ditch effort for us to give some open space back to them. So there is a picnic park there in between the shed. So in any space in between the market shed will be used as a public open space, and we try to make it inviting as possible. And of course, if you look at the plan, this is the ground floor plan. You can see we have the concealed logistic base in the middle, which you can see that actually a lot of market have peripheral logistic. So you can see what is unloading, what is loading and whatnot. We try to conceal them totally 100%. So you can't, as a patron, as a customer, you wouldn't see that. And the rest of the space is meant for car parking. Obviously, Malaysia has this very stringent law in terms of how many parking you need. So that's how much you need, almost 400 bays. And on the first floor is where the retail is. We make the retail as a circle, a rotunda to be exact, in order for them to have a good experience. So there's no stall in the second layer. So every store, every retail is on the first layer, and internally we have this a portion of a courtyard that actually continue the floor up. And you can see that in the middle there, the logistic core is still there. So the logistical core has this double volume, so that you have ample headroom, and of course for the space to be, desirable. It's not just like a logistical, bad and gloomy logistical core. You can see that the market is in different color: red, purple, pink, stuff like that, magenta. And basically there is a access from the front road, okay, leading up to the circular road or upstairs. And you can see the internal avenues and boulevard giving you access to different part of the shed. So you can have this truly urban experience where you are truly in a small district with different building. You can have a field day exploring the market, and also in a way it increase efficiency, because if you don't have to go to the flower section, for example, you can totally skip that. And if you're a Muslim, as I mentioned, you can skip the non-halal section and whatnot. So this is just a roof plan. Each market share is designed with distinct roof. You can see that eventually from the aerial view, it will become a very strong identity because of the simpler shape that it introduced, which is sort of like an oval. In section, you can see that the market is actually again elevated from the ground. If you observe carefully, the market shed now has good lights coming in, good ventilation, because the market floor is now on the second level, unlike normal market in Malaysia. I'm not so sure how you guys do that, do markets there. But on the ground floor, it will limit the sun and the air passing through. So you can see the different profile. Roof profile is tailor-made to the particular produce, as I mentioned early on. There is a desirable performance of each particular produce. And underneath, you can see in red, where the racks are, is actually where the logistical core. So the logistical core take to volume, and you can have less frequent deliveries to the fact that you have storage. And the other section, you can see that the car parking is there, and then the food court in red, basically in two floors. And the loading bay is fairly prominent here. And the loading bay is not dark. There is series of skylight from the square upstairs that will bring light in to ensure that you don't need to on any artificial lighting. And then that's where the car road on the second floor with a car ramp going up. So you can see that the market, even though it's on the second floor, we try to make it feel grounded by having some level of vehicular access. So this is the jury. This is national level competition. I presented there alone with other competitors that have a more experienced, more established office. You can see Veritas, for example, is our PAM president's office. If you don't know, the previous president of PAM is actually one of the Veritas directors. So we are really competing with the best in Malaysia per se. And actually we won, even though we are a small office, super small to be honest. And we did, due to the fact that the overwhelming inputs that we gave of what the market could be, we presented. So this is PAM, current PAM presidents. This is the politicians, basically, of that particular area. So this is member of parliament. In red shirt is the member of parliament of this particular area. And then this is the head of state or Ketua Menteri. And in blue is the mayor of the town. So they are all part of the, I think it's contributed to the mayor, to be honest, because the mayor is actually an architect. is a member of PAM. So he one of the jury panel truly appreciate the idea. After that, we need to ensure that this idea could be accepted. We have met the public. It's fairly daunting because we have to run it in 3 language in true Malaysian way. I have my ex-student there talking Hokkien, and I myself was explaining in Bahasa Malaysia and of course English. So there's an array of people you can see. Some of them don't speak 1 or 2. Some of them speak Hokkien only. Some of them speak English only. Some of them speak Bahasa Malaysia only. So there's a a challenge that we have to go through. I explained the exercise that we want to do. I explained to them actually we don't have anything designed. Okay, to be honest, I lied. I mean, of course, the competition, we already designed something. But for the sake of getting their honest feedback, we say we don't have anything designed and we like you to tell us what you want to design. So we establish 4 stations for exercise. We divide them into 4 groups. So you can see 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this exercise are designed visually, not orally or not verbally or written. It's a bit more interactive, so they can discuss and somehow argue and think about what they want, for their market, and then try to vote and give some ideas of what the market could be. In the process, we have the help of local authority. We are so thankful to the local council. They are sending 20-something officers to be part of this experiment. We try to make it very simple, light exercise, so they are not too, bogged down with details. For example, we ask them to make their own mood board in order to get their dream market. So not much, if you ask them, you want a modern market, you want a, high-tech market, it's quite daunting. It's quite hard to get a actual feedback. So if we just put some photos, some color palettes, which one would they like, and they will discuss and decide as a collective. And this is the facility tab, which have facilities written on the magnet, and try to see which facility would they rank number 1, which is utmost priority, and which priority they will rank number 6, which is, if you don't have it, it's still fine. And the last station, which is the alternative layout station, we actually ask them to design the market for us. Obviously, we want them to be participative, and of course, we use the help of Lego. And in our office, there's a bunch of them. And we try to use color codes in order to demarcate programs, and we try to somehow allow them to establish their own market. We put some rules. For example, the road, the boulevard, the avenues is still there because we want them to design sort of a city. So this is some of the result, and you can see that they give different connotations, but in a way, it helped us to form the actual and final design. Obviously, the mayor are happy with our engagement. We have some politicians come down and to be with the people. And since then, we have altered our proposal. One of the biggest change is the change of site from site B to site A. So this is the new layout per se. So you can see that the logistical core has been buffed up from 7 or 8 bays to 12, and then we have a larger car park area. Obviously, you can see the priority of Malaysians. We love our cars, definitely. So we have this huge array of entrance points. You can see the east lobby in the front, and then the west lobby at the back. And of course, in this particular case, we provide all ramp, staircase, elevator, escalator, lift. Everything is being provided. And they can be there's an array of it. So if you are stopping by such some secondary lobby, you might not have all the options, but if you go to some of the main lobby, you will have all. And we have the car ramp to go up on the 2nd floor, and the logistical core also have integration with delivery apps such as GrabFood, Foodpanda, Honestbee, and whatnot. And all this wholesaling activity will happen here. So large buying will not happen on the market floor on the second floor. It will happen here. And we have a garbage house in front. The garbage house is actually underneath the staircase. So in the front, we have the staircase mount, which you will see after this. So you can see that it's fairly efficient. The logistical core, I think normal market only 1 or 2. And at the back, there is a temple. We actually have to relocate 6 temples, and we combine the 4 of them into one building. So there's 4 sites. And we can actually close that road for festivities like Hungry Ghost Festival and whatnot. And then we'll still have this alternative route. So there is also flexibility in terms of circulation. And on the first floor is still retail and food court, but we have changed the shape of the rotunda to be a little bit more efficient. So they are also served by the logistical lift from and ramp from the logistical core in the middle. And of course, you can go through this particular floor in this particular means. There's abundance of options. Retail will be on that particular side, and then you have some large unit for kindergarten, tuition centers, music class. We bring in more service-oriented business, because service-oriented business asks you to be outside rather than selling books and clothes, because you can buy everything as such in your phone. So there's no point of doing that. So the market floor, the second floor is where the market is. We still have the plaza in the middle, but if you look at the road, we have reduced the road circumference. So it's no longer 360 around the market plaza, but rather just one part. But we have make it a bit more robust. We have designed it as such that it looks like an airport rather than a market. So we have a 5-lane road. Imagine that. And then that is an island where you can sort of a departure arrival island, which you can depart from your car or go into your car. And there is two concourse, short-term and e-hailing concourse. They are separated, and in total there are 5 lanes. So it's crazy. I mean, I think this is the first market ever. This is due to the fact that I have some experience in designing 2 airports, 2 international airports, but we didn't win the job. But more or less the knowledge is still there. And you can see in the front, there is this mount, a series of staircase and ramp, actually providing an alternative entrance. And of course, the logistical route, which is covered from the public. So you will never see a single trolley being shoved by, because it's all on the back lane. And this is where the public will go. The main boulevards of the particular market and some of the secondary street. So as an overall, you can see that the market is designed to further segregate in order to ensure that no cross-contamination. So plant-based market is on this side, animal-based market on that side. So you can see that vegan, for example, will not have to smell the smell of meat that might make them vomit. They can just go to the plant side, and of course non-halal is also one of the sheds, and they can just pass by that and don't have to go through it. And you can see that the market shed again have the similar idea of the original competition proposal, but the configuration and the space has been enlarged due to the fact that the feedback by the people wants a larger stall. So we try to accommodate that. And of course, an array of public space, community hall, the plaza, surau, the children's playground, and of course, the city gallery. So it's full on market and of course, a public space as well. As a visitor, whichever you came in, using bicycle or with stroller or with Grab e-hailing service, or you Grab food service, you will have a ton of new experience. Every time you go here, you can discover something new. Now, let's walk through the market. This is the last portion of the presentation. And basically, we're just going to start with the entrance. So as I mentioned, as you walk through Jalan Perak and you turn left, you will, you start to see the market in this particular mound, sort of a series of staircase and ramp. And actually underneath this particular mound is actually the garbage house. So instead of building a flat roof, we try to bring some of the staircase to be part of the socializing space. And of course, you can go through this entrance portal, which you can go up from ground to the first using this outdoor escalators escalators. So of course, you see that people use this space as a plaza, as a point of socializing. If you use the escalator, you can go straight and then you are on the retail portion of the building, which is on the first. But if you decide to go straight to the market floor, you can continue your journey with the second series of escalators. We're fronted with children's playground. You can see how the interposition of this particular space, public space with the market space, and eventually you get direct access to this, colorful fruit market. You can see the amount of space, light, and air that can come in due to the fact that the market is on the second floor, unlike market on the ground floor. And basically, you can see that it's a bit more desirable. You get this, huge amount of light bathing through your produce. The produce looks good, even better. Maybe in some supermarket, it looks fresh, and you can start socialize. And practically, the stall is designed to have this frontal that actually allow all traders to be to have a fair and equal opportunity for the product to be showcased. The seafood market, you can see, is fairly modularized again, as I mentioned, but the stall has been specifically designed for that particular produce, and of course the whole shed as a whole. This is the non-halal section. Again, is fairly unique due to the fact that there is a profile on the roof. So the roof gives character, the color of the building gives character. You instantly recognize where you are. And eventually the grocery part, which is slightly open, okay, to two sides at least. And this is where the drop-off area is. There is a 5-lane drop-off. If you want to go there, you can go up in this particular ramp, and eventually you will reach the second floor. The second floor, you have these two options, either e-hailing or drop-off. This is the 3 lanes for drop-off and another 2 lane there for e-hailing. So you can see that even though it's a bit busy, but eventually you can get a lot of people getting off, loading and unloading their purchase of the day. So it's fairly oriented for this urban lifestyle. Eventually, it could be turned into a drive-through service in this particular time of COVID and whatnot. Bicycle facilities, showers, bicycle locker and whatnot is also provided. Some space in between the market. You can see that the market is fairly open. The idea is to take out the circulatory aspect of a market to be outdoors, so they can have improved circulation and also drying capacity. And the hall can be extended to the plaza. If some of the activity in the hall is not enough, you can bring some of the activity out. So bringing a new dimension of this market. What can we do with this space during the evening? Now the market has become sort of a backdrop to this particular social event. Okay, you can have sports, for example, or maybe on the weekend, you can go a little bit more radical or for youth event, okay, for example, like an EDM rock concert or music festival and whatnot. You can go crazy. You can build up stages because there's a road on the second floor. You can bring this with lorry and install, and you can have this concert for the weekend or two nights or something. Give the market becomes sort of like a background or backdrop to your concert. And maybe some of the vendors is not enough. We can bring alternative vendors. So we have that flexibility. The key point is flexibility of bringing more people in, more people to share or sell their produce. The idea was to give opportunity for people to thrive economically, socially, and of course try to create some level of a sense of belonging where they can just sit around in the plaza if there is no event. Under this shaded series of shaded trees. Is free. I mean, it's a good point of confluence. And of course, it's not only for the youth. It's meant for everyone, including families, young families or young children can enjoy. There is actually 3 playgrounds, so will be enough and ample. On top, there is the city gallery. Again, the clock tower has been redesigned as a point of wayfinding. This is a logistical core. This huge logistical core actually coordinates and plan deliveries, so there will be no traffic jam and whatnot. or macet per se. So balai logistical core will coordinate with lorry and delivery, and then the garbage house there just beside that. So you can see there's no loading and unloading happening on the side of the market. Everything happened right in the heart, in the center of the market. As a whole, you can see the market is not a new addition. The market tried to continue some of the urban scale, some of the small houses. So if you build a one whole building, it will look so huge. But we try to chop it down to multiple buildings that can somehow give you an urban experience, even though on the second floor. At the back, you can see there's the collective temple is created a pond around the temple with a festivity square in front of it. And as a total complex, even though the market took a huge amount of site, eventually it replaced a lot of those lost urban space, which originally there before the small houses taken over the site. And you can see the market tried to give you opportunities, and you can actually explore a new part of your town, even though you have not lived this particular neighborhood, and try to give this neighborhood a new identity, a new shining identity, which everyone can be proud of. Eventually, the market from above is very distinct. Is the fact that the color, the shade colors, the urban composition of separated shed give a unique identity, unlike any other market in the world, which usually will have a large overarching roof covering everything. And I think that is all. I've been speaking more than 60 minutes non-stop, or slightly more than that. I wish all of you enjoyed the presentation, and looking forward to the questions.
Yes.
Back to you, Freddie.
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Koha. You are so great with your presentation. That I must acknowledge that, Kawa.
Thank you.
And I don't think you.
I try my best.
Yeah, I was mesmerizing with your market, the Penna market just now. I was mesmerizing. I was speechless, per se. But what I think that you do not have small office. I think you have effective office. With a small, with a small power, but you did a lot of bigger project, like massive project like that. I
Right.
think you do not have a small office, but
That's a nice way to put it, I think. but yeah, we recognize there is some level of positive in being small, but of course in a larger project we also find some difficulties. Yeah, right.
Yeah, correct. And I love how you approach people when you are designing something. Like, for example, the market, you actually approach the vendor, you actually approach the people who actually working or open their stall in the market, and you are quite, interactive with the peoples. It's rarely to see architect to do that kind of stuff, to be honest with you. Okay, shall we go on to the Q&A session?
Sure.
Okay, for the Q&A sessions, I will explain to you the attendance first. Okay, jadi untuk Q&A sessions kali ini kita akan membacakan pertanyaan juga ya. Kita akan membacakan pertanyaan dari Q&A ataupun dari chat, atau attendance bisa angkat tangan ya. Jadi kita akan allow to talk. Jadi attendance bisa langsung bertanya kepada saya atau bertanya kepada Mr. Kawa secara live seperti itu. Nah, nanti kita juga akan memberikan reward sebesar 50K ya, 50K IDR OVO untuk 2 pertanyaan yang akan kita pilih. Panitia akan memilih 2 pertanyaan menurut kita menarik, dan kita akan pilih 2 attendance dari pertanyaan yang menarik tersebut untuk diberikan OVO. Nanti akan dihubungi Riri ya untuk pertanyaan yang menarik itu. Oke, baiklah, kita akan masuk ke Q&A sessions. Kawa, are you ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. I see there is Ariel Aritonang actually raising hand in the middle of your presentations. I'll try to allow him to talk. If 5 seconds he didn't talk at all, and then we continue to the Q&A chat like that. Okay. Halo Ariel Aritonang. Hello. 5 second, Ariel. If you are not talking, then we go on to the Q&A session, Q&A chat. Okay. No, nothing. Okay, then let's go to the other. This one is from Q&A chat, like from Ahmad Sahwan Ismail.
Right.
Hi, talking about living space in middle of vehicular zone. I'm curious on how do you tackle the pedestrian flow, the vehicle flow, parking, safety, and safety.
I think this is a question directed to the first
Pro-
project.
I
Is it
think the second project.
the second?
Yes.
The house.
Is it
The
the?
house.
Oh, sorry. I think the first.
The
It says
first,
the
right?
yeah, the first. The
Yeah.
first. I'm sorry.
The space is, to be honest, as I mentioned early on, has no uh, natural public traffic or pedestrian traffic. So in our proposal, to be frank with you, we are not trying to address the site at all. If you look at how we approach it, we said that we have a problem with plastic, and we try to bring in some modulation for them to build their own pavilion. So with that being said, is fairly obvious the pavilion doesn't have to be underneath there. It can be it could be built or transported in other place, but because of the constraint of that particular competition, we sort of have to demonstrate how can the frame be used underneath that. Okay, to cut short, we don't think much about the flow, the safety, and whatnot, because definitely, because some other competitor did, and still can't resolve it, because it's it's a non question. I mean, the competition actually not saying that they misdirected, but a lot of participants misdirected themselves by trying to resolving issue that they can't resolve, because the road needs to be open. It's a busy road. So that's the answer. Frankly, we did not address that. We just focusing on the modulation and resolving the plastic issue. Yep.
Okay. Okay. I hope that answer. Yeah, Ahmad. Okay.
I'm so
Next
sorry
to.
to disappoint you, Ahmad. I also wish I have the answer. So sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, then let's go to Anissa here. Anissa, I will allow you to talk. Hello.
Hello, I'm
Yes.
Sasha.
Hi.
Yes. Go
Okay,
ahead, Anissa.
based on those three projects, I assume you are so merged with its socioculture. So, how do you deal with those varied users? I mean, how do you put your focus if some things are collided? What is your main focus? Thank you.
I think the simplest way of approaching a project is actually to be an actor. You have your own reality. I mean, for me, for example, my reality is office, university, PAM, or association, all this, my students, my staff and whatnot. So when you design a market, you need to change your reality. Your reality now as a market vendors is, how do I get my goods up? How do I clean my things? How do I sell? So if you look at the market per se, another reason that actually I did not disclose in the presentation is that the way that market association works, or how they bundle or unionize themselves, is by produce. So in a market, there will be an association based on produce, meaning that association of fruit seller of Pasar Perak, association of meat seller. So they bundle up by association. So another reason is that the shed is individualized, is for them to have some political control. When this shed gonna be open? When is our cleaning schedule? Because they are already unionized in that particular order in terms of produce. So the idea is you have to become an actor, you have to become them. You have to become one of them. Try. I mean, you can be a vendor if you want, but if you don't want to do that, the alternative is to understand their realities. So that's how I deal with them. When I trying to deal with the vendors, as I mentioned just now, I didn't say, "Hey, I design a market. Okay, now I present it to you and you have to like it. I lied to them. I said to them, I have designed nothing. I need you to tell me what to design. So in that psyche, they will feel very empowered. They're actually very delighted because early on the sentiment was fairly negative. They were saying that, hey, we don't want your new market. We want to stay in the old market. We don't want these new things, why not? But actually, as the event goes through, they realize that, oh, actually, you want to listen to us. That's the first time an architect actually go down and talk to them. Okay,
Yeah.
a little bit background of the project. Actually, the market has been tried to be revived or to be designed twice before us. So there are actually two rounds of design and engagement and engagement, but the engagement is more like we talk, you listen. So that kind of approach give them a connotation that they have no power. So the third time, which is us, we give them the whole say, and eventually, as I shown to you, we have revised our design 6 times. So that's it.
Yes. Okay, Anissa, answer your question already?
Okay, got
You got
it.
answer? Okay.
Okay,
Thank you
thank you
very much,
so much.
Anissa.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
about the social culture. I will it's interesting. Okay, we go on to the next questions. Jessica. Jessica, hello.
Yeah, hi. Hi,
Hi.
Freddie.
Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. Thanks for the chance to talk to Mr. Kawa.
Yes,
Hello.
go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Kawa.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm Jessica. I'm actually a founder in Studio Alo in Medan. I'm running an interior firm. It's really such an interesting presentation, and I really enjoy how you're aware on sustainable design, reuse materials, and research how to implement plastic and in space, and also look at those wasted space that people don't really focus at because there's no money in it, such as the first project like your highway project. Mm, so I actually have 3 questions for each of your projects.
All right.
It's actually very interesting. It's not to interrogate, but rather like a sense of I don't know, add value to my research because I'm also researching all about this sustainable and how can it do with the future of architecture and interior. So the first question is for the highway project that you're saying that you use the marble looking plastic, right?
Yes.
And then the patron, they can actually stack it by themselves and it can actually shape the shape of what they want, like a
Yes.
stackable thing. And also I saw that you actually propose like a plant vegetation inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really an interesting idea, but I really like to know how do you picturize the overall outcome of those stackable thing, because it's plastic, right? We as a human so far, it's only started like maybe few years back. People start to live like in a recycled plastic house, but how do you picture the feeling of actually living inside? Um, yeah, and it's under the highway. I mean, it's really such a nice one, but I just want to know more about
Sure.
your imagination. And then the second one is the modular house. Um, it's it's really such a nice shape, and I understand that you're trying to create an efficiency in space, and also try to make it more, how do you say, like you can use it from generation to generations, but how do we humanize it, as in I used to live in an apartment for quite some times, and for me, the hardest part from living in an apartment is actually to feel, um, how do you say, like to feel more in touch with nature. And I just want to know what's your opinion about that. And then the third one is pasar. It's I really feel connected with this idea of pasar. because I did my thesis about pasar before in Singapore. And also actually in Medan, we have a
Quite
few
similar.
pasar. There is actually a basement for parking. First story is for dry items such as like clothing, some other like gold shops, jewelry and such. And then the second story is actually for wet how do you say wet market. But I just can't really imagine yet. I mean, it's an interesting idea, but I just can't really imagine yet. How does it feel like inside of the market itself when using your concept? It's such a nice idea, putting the market inside in the center of the community. But I just want to know how do you picturize the feeling inside it, or maybe I missed something from your presentation, or yeah, that's all.
Right. So the first one, actually, the pavilion is meant for passerby or commuters that going back from the nearby transportation hub that I mentioned. There is a ferry, bus, taxi, train, and in the future, cable car. So actually, it's not meant for living. They should be passing by. In terms of the material, the plastic is actually outdoors. So if there is a certain amount of fumes per se, it will be blown out because it's in such a ventilated area. So in a way, the plastic frame is not meant to give an absolute finalized configuration. We expect the community to hijack the frame, meaning that maybe they put up graffiti or street art, and then they hijack one of the houses and become like what they call it, street dance or whatnot. We expect people that don't have a place, okay, youth and commuters hijack the frames. That's it. We don't really ask them, like, you have to use this as such and such. Of course, in our proposal, we simulate. That's why I said we simulate, show that the frame could be used in 12 different types or 12 different performance or programs per se. So I hope it explain how does it work. It works in terms of period, is temporary, is a short term, and in the usage program wise, it is hijackable, hybrid or whatever you want to call it. Yes, the modular house is a bit evil, to be honest, because when we propose it, actually this competition is run by a mega developer in Malaysia. So Gamuda Berhad, they own almost everything, like shopping malls, IBS, everything, airports and whatnot. So we said to them, why you want to just sell the house? What if you can also sell things inside the house? So we said to them, if your house is designed to fit certain module, okay, then you could, double up your profit. You can sell on both sides, the furnitures, the fittings with the house. Of course, it sounds evil, but in a way, where we think about it, when you buy furniture A, furniture B, furniture C from different shop, they come with different modulation. Right? When you buy something from IKEA or from other shop, it comes with different modulation. When you put them together, they will not fit exactly the wall-to-wall dimension. There will be some wastage. That's why I said to you, it is important if you do an house audit, how much space actually can you enjoy, and you will be claustrophobically amazed how small actually, maybe like 60%, as I demonstrate in the slides. So again, we also think this the fact that the dimension is stable, is modulated. We also think other companies, for example, Elba, IKEA, or Sony, or Samsung, will come up with their own kitchen module, like stove module. So I'm not saying that we are the dictator of internal space. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to please the masses. I mean, of course, the custom made, the high end product could be all this shiny, different dimension, customized, whatever product is fine. But for the masses, we just want a working kitchen that we can update. Is it good? We can update our kitchen. And then a working wardrobe, of course, it's not meant for the high end of the market, because you want customization, you want personalization. That's what I think what you mentioned just now. You're living in an apartment and you don't feel the connection with nature. That particular point I can't, address, because I think we ask so much of our house. We want it to be big, we want it to be comfortable, we want it to be functional. And on top of that, nowadays, I know there's a lot of trend that people have a separate space on top of their roof where they can see the sky and enjoy the nature. Yeah, maybe in those customized architecturally designed, by an architect. But as I mentioned to you just now, if you imagine this could be like the masses apartment, and if the masses apartment is this good, imagine what would happen in the higher end. It will be, the sky is the limit, to be honest. So that's how we think about it. So we expect, again, Hackintosh or IKEA hack culture will come in. If you don't have money to buy those branded things, you could just carpentry, work on the carpentry of that particular thing. You still have the opportunity to do that. Of course, in the slide, it looks very pristine, very, very, very perfect, very orderly. But actually, if you could imagine it in a real house, it will be a mix of everything, right? You could have like a bookshelf, then suddenly on this side is the medicine shelf. It could be a total mix, even though in the perspective just now is fairly orderly. So we expect people, again, we don't really actually have the ownership. We don't really care about ownership. If you realize the theme of our work, we let the public to have their take on our architecture per se. Same goes to the market. We let them do whatever they want. They comment or give feedback to us. The experience, yes, the experience is a big question mark. I mean, the project maybe I don't know, maybe completed or in the process of getting it built. Maybe 6 years has passed, and then we can walk there together and see how it feels. But until then, I can't say. But the fact that it gives you the curiosity or the idea of the unknown is already perfect. I mean, the fact that the architecture that we show actually have some sense of mystery, some level of undiscovered territory is already good enough for me. I mean, market is one of the typical typology that you have seen everywhere. Every city has a market. The fact that you can't actually imagine what it will happen in this particular market is, I take it as a compliment, even though you might not trying to compliment the design, but I will take it as such anyway. So hopefully in 6 years, you can count down here and we can walk together and see how the market looks like.
Yeah, okay, sure. Thanks a lot, Kawa, for the
all the best.
That will be great. Okay, we go on to the next questions. The next question is from Balkis in the Q&A chat. Balkis saying, during the design process, do you ever consider local identity for your project? Because as we know, in order to show local identity, it's quite hard. And if you do, then how you do it?
I think identity is some of the things that is, I think we all can be can agree it is intangible qualities. The problem with identity is that it changed. So if you try to design the identity of the people of today, which is people on their phone and whatnot, it could be very different. The interior doesn't mean that much. I mean, you can just have a blank, like a white walls, white floor, white ceiling, and then because their space is in that 6-7 inch screen. So that identity might not be the identity of the future. The future might be slightly different when you have your chip already inside your brain. So why do you have to see a screen? Because it could be feedback directly to you. But I understand the question. Maybe the question is all about identity of a particular culture or a bit more tangible qualities of the identity, like the tropical identity of the large roof, of the ventilated space. Yes, but how do I say it? My sphere or my head frame or my thinking space is this. The reason why we try make it as universal as possible, because we are not pushing any form. We're not pushing any shape. Okay, if you go back, if you just reverse back and look back in our project, the reason why the market can be easily transferred from one side to the other side, the reason why the apartment principle can be applied to many type or many development or different site, or the fact that the frame could be anywhere, is because we understand we don't want to be the player. Okay, this a bit difficult to. I mean, not a bit difficult. Sorry, it's just me. I have this problem of explaining. I'm a bad teacher, to be honest. But it's like this.
Okay.
Architecture based on form is like a child playing a Lego. Creating a form. Okay. We don't want to be that child. We want to be the creator of Lego.
Okay.
So that other architects can play upon. So if you look at our frame, we just designed the basic frame. Then if other architect want to take it and design like a plus, like a straight, like a circle, it's up to them. Or even the house, we just design the module, the framework. Then if Elba, Fujitsu, Samsung wants to redesign, put their what they call it, microwave on top, stove down, it's up to them. Same goes to the market. We just design the principle as a model, and when Penang have another market, want to apply the same principle, we still can have the market to be separated. We can still have the boulevard, the avenues. So we actually, I mean, I at least envision myself as the Lego creator, not the Lego player.
Okay, that's
A
I
bit
think
long.
that's a good answer. Yeah, no, it's
so
fine.
sorry.
It's okay. Maybe we take around 3 questions more, right? These questions from Nur. From Nur. Okay, let's allow her to talk. Hi, Nur.
Hi.
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Yes. You can go ahead with your
Assalamualaikum.
question.
Hello.
Yes.
Right. Hi, I'm Sheila Rosely from UCM. I'm actually a lecturer at UCM, teaching the second year. Hi. So my question is just a simple one. It's not your projects, of course, the 3 projects that competitions that you've presented just now were excellent. You had your issue, and then you had your design strategies, and then you had your contacts, you had your proposal in the end, which is kind of like thorough. But my question is just, I want to ask, like, how do you actually approach each competition? Like, what would be, because I want these students to get involved in competitions.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would be important to include? How do you actually start a project?
Yeah.
Thank you. To be honest, there is more competition that actually did not make it due to the fact of time, or we don't have much idea, that we decided not submit, or we submit like a very funny and like almost parody submission. Sometimes we do that. But for some issues that we are fairly passionate in, I think the first thing that you should do, okay, this is another quote that I always tell my students, is that architecture is about everything except architecture. I mean, if you think about the architecture of market, the architecture is not that important. I mean, not the door, the wall, the floor. It's more or less the same. Everyone can do that. But
Right.
the thinking behind how the market should perform, how the market should behave, the character of the market is the part that where it needs a bit more input. And obviously, learning about door walls and windows will not help you. So that is first. Understanding the market or understanding whatever subject is not about the physicality of the particular subject. It's about other things, the politics of it, the operational, the economics of it. As I mentioned, the house, we are presenting to a developer, so we are trying to compel them, saying that you can have a total dictatorship market or economic influence against your buyer. Right. So because when you have this sink or cabinet, usually the first thing that the buyer do, for example, a Prima house or whatnot, they will just take it out. So why don't you ask them so that they don't waste the initial cabinetry or plumbing's fittings? But beside that, actually, the most important thing is to ensure that you make your position clear. That is another thing that people don't realize. Usually, sometimes when they do competition, for example, a house, they design the house, the urban space. They design the urban space, which is okay for a start, but you did not declare your position. Position means where you are. Are you on the left or are you on the right? Meaning that, for example, in terms of the first project, our position is that the plastic issue is out of hand because plastic were importing from all these first world country or whatnot. So we're thinking we as a citizen should do something about that. Of course, it's not in the policy or governmental level. We try to do in the grassroots level. In the second one, our position is that everything has to be in the same language. I mean, if you look at Muji, right? Muji tried to do that actually. They say cloth, bed linen, stationery, bookcase. They try to modulate. If you seen the work by Shiriguban, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Muji House, the shelf and whatnot is modulated from their range of products. So the idea was a total curation of space with zero or minimal wastage per se. So you get an optimized space that you bought. Just like, obviously Japan has a very expensive real estate market. And the last one, our position is that market is not a romantic place. It's actually a logistical. So logistical buildings, just like airports. A lot of people think, when they think about airports, they think about memories. They think about family. They think about farewell. But that is not what makes an airport an airport. An airport become an airport because of the logistical things that you don't see. So so that is the biggest stake. If you have a position in something, you have a strong opinion, a strong feeling, try to express them in competition.
Right.
I think that's the best. That's the best way to get your idea tested. Is it going to be accepted or is it not accepted?
Not good enough. Okay. I think it's a good advice for students to join the competitions, Miss Noor. I think you agree with me, right?
Yes, surely.
Okay.
Sorry, just a couple more questions, short ones.
Okay.
As for
Go ahead.
graphics, I see in your presentation you include a lot of infographics. How do you normally, what applications do you use? Sorry to ask. I just want the students to, because they are here in the audience, so I want them to learn and observe. And also, what would be the advice you give to the students? What would be important to ensure that the proposal is noticed? And if you can put it in just 5 words, would be fine.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
The first one, I told Freddie yesterday, I'm a dinosaur. I did not use Bing. So I will try to learn online during this MCO. I just use the normal stuff. I don't even use CAD. I use Vectorworks, SketchUp, V-Ray, Lumion. So that's the range. I don't know. To be honest, I felt like myself is fairly limited in terms of that. So I will just try to brush up everything on Photoshop per se. So I mean nothing much. Just like cooking, we use the same ingredient, onion, stuff like that. So how do you mix the salt and onion? The second one, how to get noticed. Make your project clear and simple.
Okay.
Because when you design a market, it's so complex, right? But when you do it in an oval, in a circle, it's simple. So people look at it, oh, okay, it's an oval. So that's how you get noticed. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Kawa, for answering my questions. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you, Nur.
All right. Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Okay, I think the questions also assemble with another questions like from Asli and Ilham. I think it's the same questions that have been answered, so I guess we don't need to answer that. There's two more questions. I think from Rayhan and Arikasuma. I think that's two is the last questions. Let's discuss it one by one, shall we, Kawa? Okay, this one is from Rayhan. He was saying, I love your second project. You have very brilliant idea. How can you manage the executions from the concept to the real life building? Is there any difficulties that you find in the field? I don't think the building is built right,
Yeah, it's
Kawa?
fairly optimized, fairly rationalized.
Uh-uh.
Yeah. So I think the difficulty is just one thing: people. When you deal with people, they are so predictable and also unpredictable at the same time. Other than that, I mean, the idea, the dimensionality, I mean, obviously you can figure that out yourself. But people, how do people react? How do people will, the acceptance or rejection that they will give? Sometimes you think they are so predictable, they definitely going to reject this. But long and behold, they are happy. So I think the difficulty is people, dealing with people, and that's why our team is so small. So I don't have to
Deal with a
use
lot
so
of
much people. Yeah. So yeah, but if you come to me and spoke to me, I will smile definitely. I'm not saying I don't like people. It's just that people is very unpredictable and predictable at the same time. So yeah. That's the difficulty. The last one, the last question.
Yes. Okay. The last question is from Ari Kasuma. It's from the chat that he wrote. On the development you made, does the space or place pattern and greenery do not disrupt the air pollutions around the object? I think it means by your projects have taken a lot of space. It used to be, and how could it not be contribute in air pollutions around the site? I think that's more like it to be the question.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
To this, I would say it's relative. What does it mean is that obviously the thing that I shown you is all three competitions. It meant there is competitors. It meant there is 100 or more alternative. With that being said, for example, the market is 27, I think, participant, because the requirement is quite stringent to enter. The first project, I think, around 100 something. The second competition, 80 something. So that's the alternative that is presented to the panel. So with that being said, the panel, have looked at it, decided, okay, I want to build. So which is the best version of this particular building, this particular program? So obviously, the fact that building will consume carbon and building is actually a contamination effort is unavoidable. But at least we built the best version of that particular building. That's why if you have a green building, let's say a green market, but only a market, okay, only been used in the morning, let's say a quarter of the 24 hours, 6 hours, the first 6 hours of the morning, versus the market that being used 24 hour. Okay, even though maybe it's not that green, a bit more power consuming, but if you calculate the usage per carbon of that particular two buildings, I can bet you not the building that on the second part, which been used 4 times more all around the clock, will have a better carbon footprint, even though it's not a green building per se. So that's why we have introduced all these futsal court to run up to 4 a.m. Badminton courts, they can play on the plaza, and of course, as I showed in the video, concerts and whatnot to happen at night. Of course, we can only hope, and eventually the numbers add up. Yeah, we can only hope. I mean, everything is a guesstimate, to be honest.
Okay, I guess that's conclude all the questions and the answer. Thank you, Kawa, for the Q&A sessions and your sharing sessions. Yeah. So right now, I'll have to choose from all of these questions the best too. Okay, there is Anissa who is actually talking about social culture. And then there is Jessica. A lot of her question is about sustainability and how can Kawa actually picture it. And then yeah, a lot of questions about humanize the design. And then from Balkis, it's about identity. The fourth is from Nur, yeah, about submitting competitions and initiate design process in order for students to contribute in competitions. And then there is Rehan about difficulty of the projects, and then the last one is from Ari Kusuma about carbon footprint. Yeah, I guess from these questions that we could choose, we will choose Jessica. Yeah, Jessica as the first winner, and then the second winner we will choose Nur for her questions about submitting competitions and initiate design process. Okay, congratulations, Jessica and Nur. We will contact you through your social media, or you could actually contact us so we could reward you with the OFO. Okay. I think that's it for our sessions, Kawa. Thank you very much, Kawa, for your times.
No problem.
Yes, we are very honored to actually invite you. And there is actually, if you could see, there's a lot of curate questions that I wrote.
All right. Okay.
If you could see, there is 5 to 4 questions.
4 pages, 4 or
Yes.
5 pages. Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote a lot of questions in order to ask you, but we don't have so much time. Maybe the questions I could email you, and then we could share it with the audience when they got their certificate or what so. Okay, then thank you, Kawa. Oke, terima kasih ya kepada para attendants yang sudah mendengarkan kita ya. Terima kasih juga Mr. Kawa for your time. We really appreciate it. Saya akan kembalikan ke Miss Riri. Halo.
Halo, Freddy. Oke.
Yes.
Kedengaran suara saya?
Kedengaran, yes.
Oke. Thank you untuk Freddy ya yang sudah membawakan untuk acara kita malam kali ini, dan terima kasih juga untuk Mr. Kawa. Jadi semoga webinar ini bisa menjadi ruang diskusi yang baik untuk kita semua dan bisa menjadi inspirasi untuk rekan-rekan sekalian. Oke. Baik, untuk peserta yang sudah beruntung mendapatkan hadiah persembahan spesial dari kami Space, jangan lupa untuk konfirmasi hadiahnya. Jadi silakan untuk Mbak Jessica dan juga Mbak Nur langsung aja konfirmasi, hubungi kontak dari LP Kamat yaitu langsung di 0853 7070 1222. Jadi silakan untuk pemenangnya Mbak Jessica dan Mbak Nur langsung aja dikonfirmasi di nomor 0853 7070 1222. Oke, baik, nanti kita akan langsung hubungi juga ya, kalau misalkan ada keterlambatan atas konfirmasinya, kita akan bantu untuk data ulang untuk Mbak Jessica dan Mbak Nur. Baik teman-teman, jangan lupa jangan tinggalkan dulu untuk webinar kita malam kali ini, karena di akhir acara kita akan share link absensi. Jadi kita informasikan juga untuk teman-teman yang ingin mendapatkan sertifikat, kita akan dikenakan biaya untuk administrasi, jadi diharapkan bila ingin mendapatkan sertifikat langsung aja kita nanti akan share screen ya untuk kontak personnya kemana, konfirmasinya, dan kita akan share link dari absensi, karena yang untuk mendapatkan sertifikat juga wajib untuk mengisi absensi. Jadi nanti di akhir acara kita akan share. Baik teman-teman, sebelum kita closing untuk acara webinar review project 05 malam kali ini, kita saksikan dulu tayangan video yang dipersembahkan oleh LP Kamat.